What's up YouTube, Dell here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you another competitive update thanks to Justice Hunters. Today is the turn of Crystrons utilising the K9 cards. Now I'll also show you a combo at the end of the video so you have everything in one go for you with a detailed explanation on the profile and a combo. Now the combo comes from both Yacine and of course Yugioh Albania because I thought the combination between the two was really kind of cool, and it allows you to kind of play around certain hand traps and gives you a bit more information. So I'll show you that at the end of the video, and I'll link to their videos as well so you can go and check them out so you have a bit more of an understanding and a bit more variety. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving head first into the profile, we'll start off with the Crystron tuners, and we're going to be going with 2 Crystron Tristanos and 1 Crystron Citri. Now you can kind of play these as and when you kind of like in different ratios. You can play 3 Tristanos if you wanted to. Honestly, as we go through the rest of the Crystrons, you'll see that you don't need to rely on them as heavily, just for the pure fact that your main combo is going to come off the back of your Yugioh, and that's going to allow you to bridge into either or. There are ways that the Crystrons can bridge into the K9s, and there are ways where the K9s can bridge into the Crystrons, for the pure fact that once you get 2 level 5s on the field in stuff like your Sulfur and your Sulfur, to bridge into your K9s, you go into Ripper, and then if you want to go from your K9s into your Crystrons, you actually go into Infinitrack, River, Stormer. This will all be shown in the combo as well to give you a bit more detail, but that's just to show you what your bridges are coming from, and it makes it very effective and consistent. So Tristanos and Citri are going to be the cards you want to leave on your field during your opponent's turn, as they will trigger the ability to Synchro Summon during your opponent's turn. And the Synchro monsters you're probably going to want to be going to more times than not can also be your Quandrax, but you can also go into an FA Dawn Dragster should you want to. Carrying on with the other Crystrons, we are on 2 Sulfur and 2 Sulfur. Now, you can play 3 of one, but 2 of the other. I wouldn't personally be playing 3 of each, and I've kind of decided to cut it down to 2 and 2. But if anything, I'm probably a little bit more tempted to play the Sulfur at 3, and that's something that I still need to work out on my personal preference and play style. But I know that some people play 3 Sulfur, some people play 3 Sulfur. I've tried to kind of cut down the edges a little bit to see how it works, but you do need to see your Yugioh plus a level 5 in order to give you access to your rank 5 play. So you get a benefit, it's entirely up to you on which way you'd want to go with it, and kind of work it out to your preference of which one feels best. Then for the 1-ofs, we are now on the 1 Smygar. I know, shocking. This card used to be a 3-of, now it's just a 1-of. And the pure reason for that one is it's no longer like an ideal starter for you. It still is a starter, but when you're looking at the other card that's kind of taken up the bit of the space, which I'll give you a bit of a preview of, being your Scrap Recycler, which again you'll see in the combo, that's where you don't need to rely on the Smygar as much, because you're going to be able to utilize the Scrap Recycler to extend and accelerate your access to your Crystrons. The other ones that we play is the 1 First Viven and the 1 Paris Turtle. You don't need to play the Paris Turtle. It's kind of one of them options that can make your Infinity a little bit stronger and give you a bit more extension, but you could very easily play a second Smygar if you wanted to go more down that route. It kind of comes down to preference and kind of what you want to be working with. For the rest of the Crystron cards, we are playing 3 Crystron Inclusion. Pretty much a very important card for this deck. Like, on activation, add a Crystron card from the deck, but the benefit that I'm actually going to be utilizing it more so in this deck is the fact that it's a face-up continuous spell card. Now, yes, in your normal Crystron plays, you will want to destroy it to get it to the graveyard, but then that's when we can utilize some other cards in here as well as a bit of a preview of playing the 1 Clockwork Knight and a Therion King Regulus. Now, honestly, you don't need to be playing these cards at all. I'm just a real big fan of how cool Therion King Regulus is, and the fact that all of your monsters are machines, I just think it's a really nice option that if going second, you get access to a 2800 beta, and going first, you get access to an Omni Negate that if you do have to deviate a little bit from your standard line of play to protect you from certain hand traps, you can work your way into Regulus. For those of you a little bit kind of like thinking how this one works, you're naturally playing in your extra deck anyway your Clockwork Knight. The Clockwork Knight lets you send a face-up continuous spell you control to the grave to add a Clockwork Knight from the deck to the hand. So then what you're going to utilize is you'll start using the Clockwork Knight as your discard fodder or any other kind of destruction fodder that you may or may not need in order to get it to the graveyard. Then all you need to do is banish this to add an Earth Machine monster from the deck to the hand. You can only use that effect once per turn, but the benefit of something like that is it lets you search out a Therion King Regulus, so you'll just add into your end field. It can be, if you're just adding to your end field, a bit more of a win more option, but it's also one of the ones that being able to add a Therion King Regulus to your field can be that difference between your opponent being able to break your field and not being able to break your field. The final Crystron week card we play is the one Crystron Cluster. I still think it's really, really kind of cool to play this card. It is a 41 card deck. There are a couple of the one-offs you might want to get rid of. If you wanted to go for the free Sulphur Near or the free Sulphur Door, and you wanted to cut it down to 40, you could cut these two cards out. This is just one of my personal preference options for this particular type of deck, because I do like Fearinkin Regulus, and I do also like the option of using Clockwork Knight to turn all face-on monsters to machines, and it can kind of make some interactions a little bit awkward for your opponent, and then being able to make all your monsters stronger and your opponent's monsters weaker just increases your ability to complete an OTK. Then moving on to the other generic cards that we're going to play, or the one generic card we play in this one is the Scrap Recycler. So this is accessible off of the back of, and I showed you previously, but this is accessible off of the back of your Infinite Trap Riverstormer. So you get to detach material from this card to take an Earth Machine monster from the deck and either add it to the hand or send it to the graveyard. So the benefit of that one is as you go through your Yugioh, you don't use your normal summon. So being able to search out a Scrap Recycler as your first kind of search is what you're trying to work towards. But there might be times where you need to go through K9 Ripper. And if you go through K9 Ripper and the first search of your entire turn is off of Ripper and they try and draw you, again, you still have that benefit of going, okay, cool, well, Ripper can negate that. So you're being able to try and set yourself up with negations, protections, and everything else in between before you get to your Scrap Recycler, because the Scrap Recycler is not a hard once per turn. So when this card is normal or special, you get to send a machine from the deck to the grave. And then once per turn, you can target 2 level 4 Earth monsters from the graveyard and to the deck and draw a card. Now, very rarely you're going to be doing that, but this is just one of the ones that just gets you get a Foolish Burial, not once, but twice in this entire deck. And that's when you want to be able to send stuff like Shmaigar, First Vyvern, you name it, from the deck to the grave. Then for the K9 engine, pretty standard on this one. It's a little bit painful, unfortunately. Free Azuna. The reason you want to be playing free Azuna, and that's when you're going to get the most benefit, is because Azuna is your hand trap. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with how Azuna works, and of course with Lupus, which is the other kind of core component of this 4-card mini-engine, this one gives you the ability that if 2 or more cards have been activated in the hand, you get to normal summon it, but the benefit you're going to get is during the main phase. If your opponent's activated a monster effect in the hand or grave, and when you're looking at stuff like Vanquished Souls, they're going to be able to trigger stuff like the Jiaolong to do so, you get a quick effect to special on this card from the hand. Then if this is normal or special, you send a K9 card from the deck to the grave, being the Lupus. Lupus then has the ability that if a monster effect has been activated on the hand or grave, you get a quick effect to revive it from the graveyard. Then you have the ability to use it as a quick effect to then XYZ summon using this card you control. So that can get you a Typhon during your opponent's turn, but more times than not, it'll get you into a rank 5 option during your opponent's turn on turn 0, which can be a Ripper for a hand or grave negate. It can go into pretty much anything you really want to on a rank 5 option, as long as it has like a quick effect or a trigger effect. That's what you're trying to achieve. If that's not enough, it gives the XEs the ability that it can't be targeted by card effects, which just makes it a little bit more awkward to deal with. Now, in theory, this deck can be played without the Azuna package, and the reason I say that is because your core card now for the K9s, Azuna is great. I'm not taking anything away from it, and if you have Azunas, you'd be crazy not to play them. But considering Azunas are anywhere from like £30 to £40 per copy right now, you might be like, that's not really within my wheelhouse budget. I want to make a cheaper alternative of this deck and utilize K9 on a cheaper option. Well, your next core card is going to be the Yugioh. Now, the reason this is your core card for the entire strategy is that if your opponent has 2 or more cards in the hand, you get to normal summon it without tribute. However, once per turn, you get to reveal this card and one other level 5 monster in your hand, special summon both, but they cannot be used as material from XEs of a light monster. During your main phase, you can add a non-aqua K9 monster from the deck to the hand, and that will get you access to your lanterns. You've got follow-up or discard follow should you need to. So if you are on a very tight budget, what I'd advise you looking for is you'd be looking for maybe 2 a case with K9s, plus your free Yugioh and your lantern, and you'd be turning this into a bit more aggressive rather than reactive during your opponent's turn. In that respect, you would take out 3 Azunas, you would take out the 1 Lupus, and that's 4 more cards that become hand trap protectors in the stuff like Called by the Grave, Crossout Designator, or it becomes 4 more hand traps, whether that be Imperms, entirely up to you. Because you're taking out the Earths, in theory, you could also replace them with Impulses. And the reason I say Impulses, even though people are like, whoa, Impulses are expensive, is that they've been confirmed to be reprinted in the Megatins of this year. So they'll be a little bit cheaper to get hold of. And that's something that you can kind of pre-earmark, that if you wanted to kind of narrow down the deck and play probably one of the stronger hand traps, because you are limiting yourself to different attributes and trying to stay away from the ones that the Impulse clashes with, you could look at that as an option. Otherwise, very easily, 2 Ghost Ogre, 2 Ghost Bell, 2 Imperm, 2 Ghost Ogres, 2 Ghost Mourners, you name it, you've got the option to flex up 4 spots. So Lantern is quite like Yugioh, but this one actually needs a level 5 in the graveyard. So you get to target level 5 non-pyro K9 monster in your graveyard and special on both it and this card, but they can't be used for an XE summon of a light monster. During the main phase, you add a K9 spell from the deck to hand. So you can kind of see how Yugioh leads to Lantern. Lantern can lead you to a case for K9, or it can also lead you to a K9X forced release. A case for K9 on activation lets you add a K9 monster from the deck to the hand. K9 monsters gain 900 attack during any turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or grave. If this card in the spell and trap zone is destroyed by card effect, so yours or your opponent's, you get to set one K9 quick play spell from the deck or grave, being able to recycle the K9X forced released if you want to. This one is during the main phase, you target a K9 XEs you control and special on from the extra deck a K9 XEs with a different name. By using that monster you control, treat it as an XE summon, and then you get to target a card on your opponent controls and destroy it. So the idea is you're going to rank up your Ripper, and you're going to rank that up into the Werewolf. I personally really like this pairing, and I like that option of the X-Force. It kind of reminds me of like just like the Breaksword play when they used to have the rank up magic, and you'd go rank up magic during the main phase and then rank your monsters up. I quite like that as an option, entirely up to you on your preference. So that's it for the entire K9s and the Crystron cards. Like I said, to make it more budget if you really wanted to, is you could play it without Azunas. I think this is one of the big differences with some of the hybrids involving K9s, is that this one just relies on the Yugioh more, whereas of course Azuna will add another layer to the ceiling to it, but you can kind of deviate away from it if you still want to play your Crystrons and you want to update it with K9s without splashing like £100+ on it. For the hand traps of choice, free Fluolos. You can play free Perulia as well. I'm not the biggest fan of playing 6 Chummies in a deck right now, but I can understand that if you're going to a competitive environment, Perulia is going to be great against the Vanquish Soul strategy. Fluos is going to be great against all the other strategies, so you're kind of picking your best option. In place of the other Perulias, I have gone with free Ash Blossom, free Droll. As this deck likes to send stuff from field to grave and hand to grave, I've gone with free Forbidden Droplet. Especially, like, I feel that Forbidden Droplet is an incredibly good card in any deck that wants their cards in the graveyard. So if you do open up Crystrons, getting them to the graveyard, great. If you open up level 5s and you actually open up Lantern or access to Lantern, you just get a level 5 to the graveyard rather than Yugioh, and you do the exact same play anyway, because then your Lantern will get you access to a case for K9, that can then get you into an Azuna, or of course can get you into a Yugioh, and you still got another rank 5 on the field ready to go. The last 2 power-off spells you play is the 1 Foolish Burial and the 1 True Tactic Talents. As mentioned previously, you can play Crossout Designator, Called by the Grave. It is entirely up to you on that one. This is a 41 card deck, so you can kind of nitpick which you don't want to be playing. And as mentioned previously, if you wanted to open up a bit more space, and you're like, I have to play Called by the Grave, then you would take out the Theorem King Regulus and you would take out the Clockwork Knight as well. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll go over the Synchros first. So for the Synchros, we do play the 1 Crystron Quandrax. This is obviously like your insane boss monster for the Crystrons themselves. With most of the Crystrons, apart from the Askeletos, you want to be summoning during, or I say Crystrons, with your Synchros, you want to really be summoning during your opponent's turn. So I'm not going to go over these cards, you should pretty much already know what the Crystron cards do, but this is your boss monster and this is like your combo extender and playmaker. The 1 F.A. Dawn Dragster, I still like the option of the 1 Samurai Destroyer, just in case you have to open up full Crystron combo instead of going in for the K9s. But like I've mentioned before, and you'll see it in the combo, your K9s bridge into Crystrons and Crystrons bridge into K9s. So this is a flex spot should you want it to be. For the rank 5s, we are on the 1 Infinite Trap River Stormer. As previously mentioned, it's generic rank 5, and it just lets you get access to your starter in the form of the Scrap Recycler, which you'll get off of the back of 2 K9s, or a Yugioh plus a level 5. Then, of course, we do have the Nova into Infinity. We also play the 1 Valon. Now, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that if you ever put yourself in the light lock, that you don't have to worry about your options. So when you look at that, is your first go-to route will be your River Stormer. If you've already opened up Scrap Recycler, for example, you could then afford to go into the Valon. Then after that, once you get 2 level 5s to the field, whether it be one of your Crystrons you're naturally going to be able to make Nova with, or if you have a combination of a Crystron plus a K9, you can work your way into Nova and then in Infinity, and you've set yourself up with another layer of negation. For the K9 cards, I like to play 2 Ripper. Again, this is a flexible option, but the idea behind this is that you can make 1 Ripper during your opponent's turn, and then you can make another Ripper during the follow-up turn. So, as this is a new card and probably a little bit unfamiliar with most on this one, you get to detach material from this card to add a K9 card from the deck to the hand. Then if your opponent has activated a monster effect this turn, you get to set a K9 quick play spell from the deck or grave. When your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or grave, you get a quick effect to detach material from this card, negate that effect. Only use the effect once per turn. So you've got yourself a rank 5 Nibiru Protector, which is insane. But what's better about the Canine Ripper as well is that once you make it and then choose to use his ability to detach to then work your way into a Canine card and your opponent wants to go Droll, this can also protect you from Droll. Obviously, you need to be a little bit careful. If you're worried about Droll and Nibiru, you have to choose the better of the worst of the two evils when you're trying to use that protection option. But keep in mind, that's when the Fearinkin Regulus can add another layer to it. So you kind of choose which one you want to be able to cherry pick. And if you feel your opponent has Nibiru and Droll, then you need to be thinking a little bit more ahead of it. Not that Crystrons can't play through Nibiru naturally anyway, but it's just one of the ones you need to remember about and kind of adapt as your playstyle sees fit. Then the one K9X Werewolf. So it requires 2 level 9s. We're never going to make it with 2 level 9s. We're only ever going to be ranking it up using the quick play spell from Ripper. So when this card has material, it can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of materials attached to it. When your opponent activates a card or effect, you get a quick effect to detach 1 material from this card, then activate the following effects depending on whose turn it is. If it's during your turn, you banish up to 1 card each from your opponent's field and or grave. So that's kind of like a mini Trish option. If it's your opponent's turn, you look at your opponent's hand, get full knowledge, and you banish a card from it face up until the end phase. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to be making this turn 0 because you won't be able to activate the quick play spell the turn it is set. But what you will be doing is that when it comes back to your turn, you'll have a Ripper, and then what you can do is go to the battle phase, work your way into a Ripper, and remember the quick play is only during the main phase, but the other is you'd go into Ripper, main phase 2, then you can quick play go into the Werewolf. Or if you want to use the banish effect, you just upgrade your Ripper from being a 23 to a 33, and you've got a 33 that if your opponent activates an effect, you're just going to go, cool, banish, and clear some stuff off. The idea is you're probably going to attack with a Ripper, and then go into main phase 2, have the quick play set, pass your opponent, during your opponent's main phase, activate it, go into the Werewolf. Or activate it, go into the Werewolf, do the damage, then go back over to your opponent, and then your Werewolf is live that if they activate an effect, you're just going to get full hand knowledge and rip a card from it. For the final XEs we play is the one Star Slayer Typhon. What I like about this is if your opponent is summoned twice from the extra deck during their turn and you do have a Lupus on the field, you can use Lupus to go into a Typhon, which I think is kind of cool as a little bit of an option. That's not the main reason we're playing Typhon, it's just something that some people might need to know. But this is just one of the ones that in the format right now, we still have Mitsurugis and the Ryzeals running around, which if you're trying to take premise from the OCG didn't have the Mitsurugis. So this is something that might still be a big difference between us and the OCG, and it's something you need to keep in mind of. The final 2 monsters that we are playing in the extra deck is the one Clockwork Knight, pretty straightforward and simple on that one, and the one SP Little Knight. Again, you've got a little bit of flexibility in the extra deck should you want to, but these are pretty much the only monsters you need to worry about. And what I like about this particular hybrid is it now no longer has a mass issue against stuff like, not that it did have like a mass end turn kind of one, but Lancia used to cause it a little bit of an issue, doesn't need to worry about it. It can now protect from Droll, it can now protect and play through Nibiru a little bit more consistently. It doesn't really worry about D-Barrow because like you call Synchros, you go, okay cool, I'll just go the XEs route. You call XEs, you go, cool, I'll just go the Synchro route. So you've got a couple of different ways that you can adapt this build as and when you see fit, but this just kind of give you a bit more of an introductory breakdown on why the hybrid works and how it does so well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the combo in this deck, show you what it can do, and then you can see what this deck can do in action. So I'll be back in a bit. So shout out to this combo go to pretty much everyone. Yacine, Luko Sacco, and of course, Yugioh Albania. Like the baseline I've kind of got from all 3 of those videos, and then I've added my own little spin to it to give you a little bit more on your end field. It doesn't have to be added to the end field, but it kind of gives you a bit more to work with. So what you're going to need is you're going to need Jockle plus any level 5. So it can be another Jockle, it can be, kind of don't really want it to be Lantern, but if you need to be, it can be, and it might adapt the combo a little bit later on. But it can also be any of your Crystrons. But we're going to be going with the idea that you don't see a single Crystron name in your entire hand, and then you get to add to it. So you're going to use Jockle's effect in the hand, you reveal itself and another level 5, summon both of these down. Then utilize the effect of Jockle to grab you a Lantern. You can be a little bit more defensive around Droll and Lockbird, and what I mean by that is, what you would do is if you choose not to search out your Lantern, it will adapt the combo a little bit, but you would overlay both of your Jockles and go into Ripper, so that when you detach a material off of Ripper to then add a K9 card, you have the protection from Droll from that point on. So it's up to you on how defensive you are feeling and what you have in your hand, and you can hold back the Lantern search for a little bit later on, and you'll see all of that in Yugioh Albania's kind of route. So you're going to overlay your 2 Jockles, you're going to go into Ripper, you're going to use Ripper's effect, detaching a Jockle to grab you a K9 card, so you're going to want to grab a case for K9. So now what you can do is you can activate a case for K9, this is going to give you the ability, as I shimmy these up a little bit, To add a K9 monster from your deck to the hand, so you're going to grab an Azuna, which lets you activate it during your opponent's turn, but this is basically just a blank, because it's not really be used in this combo, it's just the fact that you can add a Case 9 card, and that's when you could technically, rather than grabbing the Azuna, grab your Lantern off of this one, while you've got that protection from Draw and Lockbird. So you've got the benefits of saving the monster search of your Yugioh, and that's kind of the option you need to look at. So then what you're going to be doing here is you're going to use Lantern's effect to summon itself down and bring back the Yugioh. Remember, you can't go into a light rank 5 on this one. We are then going to use Lantern's effect to let you add a K9 spell and trap for your deck to the hand. So you're going to grab the K9 X-Force. And then you're going to overlay both of these, and this is now your bridge to get you into your Crystrons. So you're going to go into the River Stormer, you're going to use River Storm's effect to detach a material. This will then allow you to add an Earth Machine monster from the deck to the hand, and you're going to grab your Scrap Recycler. Now we haven't normal summoned yet as well, so you're still very much protected. You're now going to want to normal summon down the Scrap Recycler. We're in Nibiru territory, but again, that's where Ripper comes into play. And it does mean that multiple hand traps will cause you issues, but it means they're going to need to Nibiru you and Droll you before you get to this particular point here anyway. So normal summon down the Scrap Recycler. On normal, you get to send a machine monster from the deck to the grave. So you're going to be able to send your Crystron first Vyvern. Then going to link off your Scrap Recycler into the amazing Clockwork Knight. You can use Clockwork Knight's effect to send a case for K9. Now remember, Clockwork Knight sends, it doesn't destroy, so you won't get the destruction effect of Case 9, which is why we specifically searched out the K9 X-Forced. The reason we do that is we're going to grab ourselves a Clockwork Knight, that we're just going to be using it as destruction fodder a little bit later on, so don't worry about it so much right now. That's kind of something to worry about a little bit later on. At this point here, we're going to use the second effect of the Clockwork Knight to target in the graveyard a Scrap Recycler. You're going to tribute off your Infiltrate River Stormer, and then you're going to bring back the Scrap Recycler, being able to trigger the effect of the Scrap Recycler to send your Sulfurneer from the deck to the grave, and that's how you're going to be able to get more Crystron names into rotation, while also still being able to maintain some sort of field presence, which is really kind of cool. Now at this point we're going to be banishing the first Vyvern, and in order to grab ourselves, as it jumps out of the graveyard anyway, to grab ourselves the Crystron Smygar. So now what you've done is you've got yourself the ability of having a Crystron card in the hand that you might want to be using a little bit later on, so you're still in very, very good position. So now we're going to be able to utilise the graveyard effect of the Sulfurneer to be able to discard the Smygar, summon the Sulfurneer back, and then destroy itself, being able to special summon out the Sulphur Door. We're then going to use Sulphur's effect to send 2 from deck to grave, so you're going to want to send your Inclusion, and you're going to want to send your Crystron Tristanos. Now we're going to use Smygar in order to banish itself and grab ourselves our own Occlusion that we're going to want to use. So you can already see that our hand is technically +4 because we've already used our first 2 cards in the hand, and we still have 3 more cards in this hand like limit already. So you're in a very, very good position. Now we're going to link away the Scrap Recycler and the Clockwork Knight, as they have both done their jobs to get us into an SP Little Knight, freeing up a bit more space along the monster zones for us, which is exactly what we need. Then we're going to be using the graveyard effect of the Inclusion, banishing it out to summon us back our Tristanos. And then we're going to want to hard synchro summon using your Sulphur Door and your Tristanos to get you into the Crystron Ischeletus. Now we're going to use the Ischeletus effect on summon in order to us to add back the first Vyvern. We're now going to use the graveyard effect of the Tristanos to banish itself to destroy the Ischeletos and summon 2 Crystrons from the deck. One being the Crystron Tortoise, and of course one being a level 5, whether it be Sulfurneer or Sulphur Door. We're now going to be able to utilise the graveyard effect of the Ischeletos that allows you to special summon a Crystron monster from the grave or banishment, which is going to be very, very important to get you back your tuner, being your Tristanos. Now we're going to be able to activate our Inclusion. This is then going to allow us to grab our Crystron cluster. So you'll pretty much see that our hand advantage is looking relatively healthy. Izuna or not, doesn't make much of a difference. Now what you're going to do is you're going to want to our graveyard effect of our Sulphur Door to then pop our Inclusion, summons itself back, great success. Overlay both of these into a rank 5 of the highest order, being Nova. Then you're going to use Nova to go into Infinity. Before your Infinity absorbs out the tortoise, this is where we're going to be able to push our Enfield that one step further. So you're going to want to make sure, specifically, you'll now activate the Clockwork Knight. And the reason you're going to do this is you're going to use the Paris Tortoise effect to target a face-up card you control and then destroy it, but you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except Machine Synchros, which is fine. Destroy it, and if you do, special summon a Crystron tune-up from the deck. So we're going to be able to special summon out our second Tristanos. Now what you're also going to be able to do is banish the Clockwork Knight from the graveyard and discard a card. You've got plenty of cards in your hand that you want to discard, so it's entirely up to you on what you want to do. Honestly, I'd probably just discard the first Vyvern again, just so you can kind of free up a bit more space, because if this is an Azuna, you're going to want to keep it, and then you still have your 3 more random cards from your opening hand. Now the benefit of something like this is going to allow you to grab you your Therion King Regulus. You can use Infinity to absorb the Parasaurus just to make sure you've got your Regulus in play. You're then going to want to set your cluster. You're going to set the K9 X-Forced. Yes, of course, the Therion King Regulus is a little bit more extension than you really needed to, but you can see that our entire hand is pretty stacked. And what you're going to be able to do during your opponent's turn is you now have an order in which you want to be activating stuff. So first off, you might want to consider using Regulus or SP Little Knight. The reason you would do that is if you use SP Little Knight, you clear up a bit of space there, so this gets banished. You can then use the K9 X-Force to upgrade the Ripper. You probably want to use Ripper's effect first to be able to make sure you detach something. So let's say you use SP Little Knight, banish and banish, great. You can then use Ripper to detach and negate. And then you can use your K9 X-Force to rank up your Ripper, and you can put it in the extra monster zone just to kind of free up a bit more space. Or you do your Synchro Play, goes into the extra monster zone. It doesn't make much of a big difference. We're just basically freeing up space here as we go. And then you've got the Werewolf, so if your opponent was to activate anything more, you'll get a full knowledge of their hand and you get to banish one as well, or banish that card from the hand until the end phase. You've then got your Infinity, you've still got Regulus that sends itself. We've used this, we still have Cluster, and now we've got 2 spaces here. So when your opponent activates something, you can use the Tristanos' effect, grab you a level 5 from the deck, which is kind of what you're going to be opening for, so you're going to go for another Sulfur or Sulfur, whatever you have left. And then you can synchro these two, being your 2 tuners plus your Sulfur. This will then get you into your Kondrax. Kondrax then clears off, and you're still just having bits more spaces added up and added up. You can then, of course, use Infinity. Once that's been done, you've got Cluster. And then if they are still going and they just haven't stopped, you go, you know what, fine. We're going to Azuna. Azuna's going to send your Lupus. Lupus effect is going to allow it to bring itself back from the graveyard. Then you can use the quick effect of your Lupus to overlay with your Azuna and go into any rank 5 of your choosing. Probably going to be going into the Valon. This is the only one we haven't used yet. And now we've got a Book of Moon play as well. Plus the 3 cards left in the hand that can be droplets, they can be additional hand traps. Like, it's just absolutely insane just how much this deck can now do with the inclusion of the K9s. I think like the K9s are a crazy engine that... Don't know what some people were thinking when they created them, but you never know. We're going to see what this can do in the upcoming format and the upcoming meta. Anyway, I hope this combo has been informative for you. I hope the entire profile has been informative for you. Like I said, massive shout out to Yacine, Lucas, plus, of course, the Yugioh Albania, because I kind of used inspiration from their combos. So you can see that the Parasaur Tortoise came from Lucas and Yacine, and then the playing around Droll at the start of the combo came from Yugioh Albania, and then I've added in my option of being able to utilize the Therion King Regulus towards the end of the combo, just to give you that one additional layer without really disrupting the flow of the deck, to give you everything you might need. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.